The US has 50 states, and Europe has 50 countries. So let's put them to the test and rank them worst to best, based on their economy, safety, cost of living, freedom, and quality of life. Vámonos, allons-y, lass uns gehen, and let's go. Number 50, Vatican City. At 1/5 the size of Central Park, Vatican City is the smallest nation on Earth, with its entire area located within the city of Rome. And it's obviously last, because if you're not part of the Vatican staff, Swiss Guard, or a Catholic priest or nun, you're not even allowed to live here. But why would you? It's overcrowded, a complete monarchy, and its status as a country is mostly just an excuse to not pay taxes. Number 49. Ukraine. Ukraine is the second largest country in Europe and also home to its second most corrupt government. So despite its beautiful people, landscapes, and history, it's Europe's poorest nation with a GDP per capita lower than Iraq at $5,200. The current conflict with Russia has also made many parts of the country not safe, with more than 10,000 Ukrainian civilians being killed in less than 2 years. Number 48. Belarus. Don't get cocky, Belarus. The only reason you're not dead last is because there's a literal war going on between your neighbors. Considered Europe's last true dictatorship, Belarus's president has been in power for 30 years and routinely invents laws that serve him. Not only is there an extreme lack of human rights where you'll be arrested and perhaps tortured for peacefully protesting or criticizing his government, you can actually be arrested for speaking Belarusian. Yeah, Russian's the official language here. Number 47, Moldova. Moldova is Europe's least visited nation, and also its least developed, with the lowest life expectancy, second lowest GDP per capita, and hardly any infrastructure existing outside the capital, Chisinau, which is often ranked as Europe's ugliest, most boring capital. Throw in a corrupt government and high levels of organized crime, and Moldovans are the least happy people on Earth. No, like literally, when pollsters ask, "Are you happy?" more than half of Moldovans say no. Number 46, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia and Herzegovina has been through a lot. After the breakup of Yugoslavia in 1991, over 100,000 Bosnians were murdered and 2 million displaced during the ensuing Yugoslav and Bosnian wars. And many ripples are still felt today, with the worst pollution in Europe, hundreds of completely destroyed buildings, and extreme poverty and PTSD among its residents. Now, those were the 5 worst countries in Europe, and before we get to the other 45, leave a like and subscribe. If we hit 10,000 likes, I'll rank every country in Asia too. And I also wanted to give an honorable mention to Kosovo, which Serbia claims. Its sovereignty is recognized by over half of all UN nations, however, so if you consider it a country, it'd be right here on the list. Kosovo would be Europe's second poorest nation, with a terrible economy and the highest unemployment rate at 20.6%. But since Kosovars receive a lot of money from displaced family members living in wealthier nations, the quality of life isn't terrible, and average life expectancy is nearly 80. Number 45. Azerbaijan. Wait a second, isn't Azerbaijan in Asia? Well, most of it is, but 7,000 square kilometers of it is technically in Europe. In fact, only 43 nations lie entirely within Europe's borders. But most organizations count 50 European nations, and scientifically speaking, Europe isn't even a real continent, but rather a part of Eurasia, so its boundaries are mostly just political. And speaking of political, although Azerbaijan has the most secular government amongst majority Muslim nations, it's still egregiously authoritarian. Elections are not free or fair. Political opponents are often imprisoned, and the president and his father have had complete control of the country for 30 years. But due to its vast oil reserves, the economy is decent. Number 44. Armenia. Geographically speaking, all of Armenia lies in Asia. Geopolitically and culturally, however, it's very European, and part of most European groups, such as the Council of Europe. But Europe or not, 26.5% of Armenians live in poverty. Because despite the political system being more democratic than Azerbaijan's, it's still incredibly corrupt, leading to little economic opportunity. This, combined with the nation's near constant conflict with Azerbaijan over the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh territory, has resulted in the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Armenians. Number 43, North Macedonia. After countless controversies with Greece regarding the name Macedonia and its former excessively long name, former Yugoslavic Republic of Macedonia, the nation was officially renamed North Macedonia in 2019. But unlike the vast Macedonian empire Alexander the Great once led, the only thing North Macedonia is leading the continent in is unemployment. Number 42. Albania. While it's likely the most beautiful European nation that you know nothing about, Albania is not a great place to live. But considering their tragic history, it's a miracle Albania's recovered at all. After being under one of the most impoverishing communist regimes for half a century, with the former lunatic dictator using the nation's money to build nearly 200,000 bunkers for an invasion that never came, the new democratically elected government in 1992 proceeded to lure 2/3 of the population into a government-backed pyramid scheme, which obviously failed, bankrupting the majority of Albanians and resulting in the 1997 Civil War. Number 41. Georgia. Georgia is Europe's most homophobic nation, with 84% of residents saying same-sex relations between adults is always wrong. And this stubborn mentality opposing progress translates to all aspects of life. Average wages have remained low, healthcare and education remains poor, and its cities are among the most polluted on Earth, resulting in a life expectancy that's lower than Syria. Number 40. Russia. Let's just get this out of the way. Russia has extremely limited personal freedoms. There's no right to peaceful assembly, and public opposition to the war with Ukraine, or even calling it a war, is considered a crime. But for all its issues, including being Europe's most corrupt and dangerous nation, it's cheap, and the economy and infrastructure, especially in Moscow and St. Petersburg, is very advanced, with the world's 6th highest GDP at purchasing power parity. Number 39. Serbia. Belgrade, the former capital of communist Yugoslavia, is now Serbia's capital and a party capital, with the Lonely Planet ranking it the #1 party city in 2023. And this city of extremes, with its beautiful historic center and flashy business-oriented new Belgrade, sitting next to destitute districts without proper sewage, represents the nation at large. If you have money, it's great. If you don't, it's not. Most people don't. Number 38. Bulgaria. Bulgaria is one of the most fascinating countries. It's the only Slavic state to never join Yugoslavia. The Cyrillic alphabet was invented here, and it's home to the most archaeological sites in Europe other than Greece and Italy. But it's also full of contradiction. While its merit-based schools are remarkable, the majority of schools suck. While its 59-week paid maternity leave is the highest in Europe, so is the mortality rate. And while the GDP per capita isn't terrible, 23% of the nation still lives in poverty. Number 37. Montenegro. Before 5 seconds ago, most of you had never heard of Montenegro. And even now, some of you are probably questioning, wait, does Montenegro exist? But although this unknown nation of 600,000 really tall people is the least corrupt in the Balkans, which is a big reason why it's the non-EU member closest to joining, it's also tiny with low wages and taxes, resulting in severely underfunded social programs. But hey, at least Montenegro owns the domain .me, which actually pays the nation $350 million a year. Number 36. Kazakhstan. Apart from being very nice, almost nothing in Borat about glorious nation of Kazakhstan was true. But despite hardly exporting any potassium, Kazakhstan is the greatest exporter of uranium, which, combined with the planet's 12th largest oil and gas reserves, have led to a stable, growing economy and highly developed cities and transportation. Number 35. Turkey. Turkey's most populous city, Istanbul, straddles the border between Europe and Asia and has been one of the most important cultural centers for nearly 2 millennia. But while it and the European portion of Turkey is wealthy, accounting for 30% of the nation's GDP despite covering just 3% of its landmass, most of Asian Turkey is extremely impoverished. Number 34. Hungary. Hungary receives one of the largest amounts of EU development funds. But since its government is by far the most corrupt in the EU, most of it is funneled to the Prime Minister's family and friends rather than used to improve the nation's infrastructure or economy. Add on the world's highest value-added tax at 27%, and the result is the worst inflation in Europe, with the nation's currency being devalued by 20% each year. No wonder Hungary has the most porn stars per capita. OnlyFans really do be saving lives. Number 33. Romania. While Hungary is the prime example of a nation's quality of life suffering due to corrupt governance, Romania is the opposite, being the poster child for how quickly a nation can turn things around. One of the poorest countries with a poverty rate of 42% when admitted into the EU in 2006, Romania has had Europe's fastest growing economy ever since, with its GDP growing by 650% over the past 20 years, cutting the poverty rate to just 10% today. Oh, and Dracula lived here. Number 32, Latvia. Latvia houses more women than any other nation and has prospered greatly since the breakup of the USSR. But it's still the poorest and most corrupt of the three Baltic nations, with the second worst inflation and roads in Europe. Number 31, Slovakia. No, not Slovenia, that's in the Balkans. And not souvlaki, that's Greek. And delicious. But while few of you can pronounce the former half of Czechoslovakia properly, and even fewer of you can locate it on a map, Slovakia has quietly been improving its quality of life. In large part due to producing the most cars per capita. It's also incredibly safe, education and healthcare is reliable and free, and its capital, Bratislava, even has a UFO. Number 30, Croatia. Ever since joining the EU in 2013, and people learning that much of Game of Thrones was filmed in Croatia, tourism numbers have skyrocketed, doubling from 2014 to 19. But this, in addition to the recent adoption of the euro, has also led to prices rising, with the average cost of goods now being more expensive than Western Europe, despite salaries being much lower. Number 29, Lithuania. If I lived in Lithuania, this video would have been uploaded at least 8 minutes sooner, because it has the fastest internet on Earth, which is a testament to how far this small Baltic nation has come since they facilitated the breakup of the Soviet Union. But although the economy has evolved greatly, many Lithuanians' worldviews have not, with most of the older generation being judgmental about anyone who expresses themselves. Number 28. Greece. Compared to the Balkans, Greece is wealthy. Compared to the EU, Greece is poor. And compared to musicals, Greece is the word. Its history, language, and scenery are beautiful. The food is mouth-watering and healthy, and its people are wonderfully warm and welcoming despite their corrupt government and struggling economy. Number 27, Andorra. Skiing and duty-free shopping are the only reasons anyone ever thinks of this cheap 468 square kilometer nation. But you could also just go to Oregon for that, where there's better beer and legal weed. Number 26, San Marino. Andorra seems massive compared to this tiny 61 square kilometer microstate, which is located entirely within Italy and relies on it for 80% of its economy. But San Marino is also the oldest continuous country and exceptionally wealthy, with no national debt and the 7th highest GDP per capita. Number 25, Poland. Poland is the geographic center of Europe, and also the center of this list, because overall, it's pretty much the most average European nation. Well, aside from the fact that the godly delicatessen known as the bagel was invented here. Number 24, Italy. Italy is a tale of two nations. While the northern part is very rich and developed with a quality of life similar to top 10 countries, the south is really struggling, with less than half the north's GDP per capita and more than triple its poverty rate. Not to mention, it's got a real trash problem, with Rome being named Europe's filthiest city. Number 23, Malta. After having been colonized by 10 different empires over the last 2,700 years, Malta finally gained independence in 1964. And ever since, it cemented itself as a tourist haven due to its year-round warm climate, awe-inspiring historic sites, and world-class beaches. Not to mention, it's also become the iGaming capital of the world, which has resulted in high wages and Europe's third lowest unemployment rate. Oh, and despite being Europe's most Catholic nation, Malta is also the most LGBTQ-friendly nation. Number 22, Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein is so small and irrelevant that even its neighbor, Switzerland, often forgets it exists, having accidentally invaded the nation 5 times. And up until a decade ago, you could actually rent the entire country for just 70 grand a night. But despite nothing noteworthy ever having happened here, Liechtenstein enjoys the world's 2nd highest GDP per capita and 3rd highest life expectancy. Number 21. Monaco. Monaco's population is similar to Liechtenstein's, yet it's 80 times smaller at a mere 2 square kilometers, making it the most densely populated nation. But while even Liechtenstein doesn't take itself seriously, Monaco is the most try-hard country. It houses the most millionaires and billionaires per capita, the highest GDP per capita, and a human development index over 1, which shouldn't be possible. Why? Because there's no income tax. So wealthy people from all over the world move here to flaunt their yachts and supercars. Number 20. Estonia. Estonia's capital, Tallinn, is less than a 3-hour ferry ride from Finland's capital, Helsinki. And while it may seem amusing that countless Finnish tourists ride this ferry simply to buy cheap booze, it underscores why Estonia is the most affluent Baltic nation. Trade and investment from Finland and Sweden. Estonia has also mimicked many of the Nordic nations' best traits, prioritizing education, safety, and innovation, with it now being the most digitally advanced nation in the world. Number 19. Portugal. You may have heard of Portugal being a top expat destination due to it offering all the food, beaches, history, and culture of most Western European destinations, while being a fraction of the cost. But since local wages aren't great, this has also created Europe's worst housing crisis, with home prices rising 157% from 2020 to 21. Number 18. Cyprus. Cyprus has more billionaires per capita than any non-microstate nation, mainly due to its great weather and friendly tax structure, incentivizing foreign tech companies to set up shop here. The island is a hub for Forex, fintech, iGaming, and crypto, not to mention the center of the online porn industry. But it's not just the wealthy who prosper. Average wages are similar to Western Europe, and the healthcare is among the best in the world. Number 17. Spain. Spain might have the best work-life balance of any nation. Not only are 30 paid vacation days and 14 paid public holidays required by law, many companies even close for 2 to 3 hours during the day for siesta. But while there's splendid weather, scenery, history, and culture, in addition to some of the best food and drink on Earth, it's not all sunshine and wine. The 12.7 unemployment rate is the highest in the EU, and the cities have Western European prices with Central European salaries. Number 16. France. When polled on who the most arrogant Europeans are, the French chose themselves because they have everything most people could ever dream of, and they know it. The cuisine is out of this world, the arts and culture are unmatched, and the laid-back lifestyle emphasizes life over work. But that doesn't mean the French are lazy. They produce the world's 7th largest economy, and their healthcare, education, and public transit are all outstanding. Number 15. Czech Republic. Czechs are the best at drinking beer. Literally, the average Czech drinks 520 beers a year, which is nearly double the next country. But that's not the only thing Czechs excel at. The Czech Republic is home to the lowest unemployment, poverty, and homicide rates in Europe, as well as one of the fastest growing economies. Number 14. Slovenia. If it weren't for Luka Doncic, most people would have no idea where or what Slovenia is. And that's a shame because in contrast to most former Yugoslavic republics, Slovenia has had some of the best economic developments on the continent, with the GDP per capita tripling in the last 20 years. Plus, 1 in every 20 Slovenians is a beekeeper because 1, Slovenians love honey, and 2, they prefer to shop local, which is a huge reason why Slovenia has the world's lowest income inequality. Number 13. United Kingdom. The UK's damp, cold, gloomy weather is a metaphor for the nation's current sentiment. Depressing. The average quality of life has steadily decreased since Brexit, and the economy has been in stagnation for far longer. But the UK is still the world's 6th largest economy, and the free public healthcare and education is excellent. Number 12. Luxembourg. Sure, it's boring, but stats don't lie, and neither does the highest GDP per capita on Earth. But Luxembourg is also outrageously expensive. Number 11. Belgium. Home to the EU's capital and bordered by the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Germany, and France, Belgium is a mix of the best parts of those nations, crunched into a smaller, more urbanized version. Well, maybe not exactly smaller, because Belgium has a province called Luxembourg, and that alone is 71% larger than Luxembourg. But similar to Luxembourg, Belgians are incredibly wealthy. Nearly 3/4 of the population owns their own home, and the median wealth per adult is the 3rd highest in the world. Number 10. Austria. From schools to healthcare, the economy to safety, and everything in between, Austria is among the top 15 nations in literally every category, including the most paid time off. Plus, it's jaw-droppingly beautiful, and Vienna is often ranked as the best city on earth. Number 9. The Netherlands. While many argue that Monaco, the Vatican, and other microstates shouldn't exist, the Netherlands literally shouldn't exist. 26% of its area is located below sea level. But the Dutch's ingenuity and resourcefulness of building dikes, pumps, and canals which allow 50% of its population to live below sea level has also translated to its economy, with the Netherlands having the third highest after-tax net income of any nation. Number 8. Germany. Germany is the economic powerhouse of Europe, having just surpassed Japan to become the third largest economy, all while Germans work less hours than any other nation. How? Well, they're highly educated, and because they don't work as much, Germans are much more productive in the time they do work, since they know they'll have plenty of time to socialize and enjoy life after. Number 7. Sweden. Sweden is perhaps the perfect balance between capitalism and socialism, with the Scandinavian nation being home to one of the best economies due to low corporate taxes and plenty of innovative companies, while also having an incredibly strong social safety net. Heck, the government even allows Swedes to take 6 months off in order to start their own business, with a guarantee they can return to their job if their idea flops. Number 6. Finland. Less than 6 hours of daylight and brutally cold winters might seem depressing, but Finland has actually been the happiest nation for 8 years running, which goes to show how much a non-corrupt government that cares about its residents can increase a nation's quality of life. Because with the world's best schooling system and parental leave policy, the cleanest air and water quality, and highest level of food security, Finns have little to stress about. Number 5. Switzerland. Nothing in life is free. And there's a reason Switzerland is ridiculously safe with the world's best public transportation, healthcare, and after-tax net income. Because it's also the most expensive nation. But boy, is it beautiful. Number 4. Denmark. Denmark may not have the best museums, food, or natural scenery, but when it comes to the essentials, such as good paying jobs, cleanliness, safety, and great quality affordable healthcare, education, and housing, few nations do it better than the Danes. Number 3. Ireland. Ireland has the highest PPP GDP per capita at $145,000, a full 65% higher than Switzerland, the second wealthiest non-microstate. But despite its already exceptional economy, it's also the fastest growing, with a 9.4% annual GDP growth rate. How do the Irish keep finding massive pots of gold? Well, it's home to Europe's most educated working class and corporate-friendly tax laws, resulting in nearly every large US company placing their EU headquarters here. Number 2. Norway. Norway is a hypocrite. It's one of the cleanest, greenest nations, with 97% of its trash being recycled, 99% of its energy coming from renewable sources, and more electric cars per capita than any other nation. Yet, a big reason why it has the world's third highest nominal GDP per capita is due to it being one of the biggest exporters of oil. This also pays for Norway's superb social programs, however, with 59 weeks paid family leave, a top 5 healthcare and education system, and a highly successful qualification program which pays unemployed people to learn new skills. Number 1. Iceland. Iceland is the epitome of how incredible a non-corrupt nation can function. Having been democratically run for over 1,000 years, every penny the government takes goes back to helping its residents, which is why the island leads the world in literally every statistic. From being the safest nation with the safest city, to having the best gender equality and retirement pension plan, to the lowest poverty rate and highest median wealth, with the average adult owning 413 grand in assets. And on top of that, it might be the most beautiful country. But while these were Europe's 50 nations, the US also has 50 states. If you want to see how they rank up against one another, there's a video on screen now. Go check it out.